Hi, and welcome back to Bill's Retro Stuff. When we left off before, I was kind of curious about this power supply. This Radio Shack power supply that is actually made to power up CB radios or, car radios. I used to use it for car radios. It was my dad's. He used it for his CB. I used it for my car to work on car radios. I was confused about the transistor setup, and what it was, this was set up like a Darlington style transistor. It had a driver transistor to drive this transistor. Not sure exactly why, can't really find a lot of speculations, which I'm not going to get into here. But while I was here, I wanted to look at the Zener diode to see if by chance it might be shorted. So right now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pull it apart, and we'll let me zoom in a little bit here, and we're going to see if the Zener diode might be bad. This diode right here. So let me go ahead and clean it up. Normally I'd use my soldering thing there, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to suck it off there. I'm going to heat my thing up, and we're going to suck that off there. Now what we'll do is we'll do it the old-fashioned method. We will probably pry that. Let me go get me a little screwdriver here. And we'll pry that off. Oh, where's my little screwdrivers? Can't find anything anymore. Flatbed screwdriver. Let's go back. If you don't really have a fancy soldering sucker, you can still use it the old-fashioned way by just putting a little bit of pressure on that diode, just right by the thing, and we're just going to pull. Right now, we're going to pull one side off, and that's how that happens. And we'll go ahead and we'll check that here real quick. And let's see where we're sitting at. There's my diode checker here. Let me get that in the frame here. All right, and there's that. Hopefully you can see it. Let's see. It looks like you can. Looks like it's still a little too far up, so we probably need to bring it up so you guys can see it a little better. So, still trying to get my legs on what I need for whatever and whatever. Alright, you can see that. Alright, now here's my diode, and let's see what we got there. We should only see something one direction. Well, I guess we can take it out altogether now. It looks like I already soldered the other side, so we'll now we can check it this way. So let's see what we got. Should only check one way. If it checks two ways, we're in trouble. So you should be able to check it one way. One way you should get something. See, that's weird. And the other way we should get something. Let's see here. Now that diode might be bad. So we just happen to have another Zener diode here. It's a glass tube one, but it should still work. This is an A, this is the standard, so let's see what we got here. See if that's standard. See, that's not making contact, and it should read the other direction. The black line should be negative. Okay, so that diode. So I think the problem with this power supply was the diode. This diode right here. Because this reads right, and shouldn't read the opposite direction. It should say, well, hold on, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, there you go. Should read one direction and not the other. Yep. Let's double check this. What we'll do is I'll put one leg there. This is a small pin. Let me go get something that will help us out a little bit. If I can find what I did with them, that is. Let's see if we can use this. Let's see if we can help out with this a little bit. It should always have a set of these right here. And let's go ahead and pull these pins off here real quick. Even though it's got a different end, this is still the same. Actually, it's backwards. Common should be on the bottom. Let's see what we got here. Alright, here we go again. Alright, so let's put this on positive, this on negative, and see what we have. See that? Should never have done that. Let's put it around the other way here. Let's put it on the opposite way, which we should still, this we should not get nothing. That was a dead open. That's the same problem. So this diode is probably what was making that transistor, I think we had a shorted transistor. So what we will do at this point now, what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and start putting some of this back together since I have the diode now. Alrighty, so this here we're going to, kind of odd, but you're going to put negative to positive and positive to negative. So let's see, let's go ahead and get our leads bin here. Alright, bin our leads up there a little bit, there we go. Okay, and then we're going to put our diode in. In this case the negative goes to positive and the positive goes to negative, and the reason they do that is so it drains off, I'm pretty sure. So let's go ahead and just throw that down in there. Okay. Didn't do that right. Let's flip that around. Actually, let's get a little better tightness on that diode here. I'm finding that it's wasn't tight enough. So we'll go ahead and tighten it up here. There we go. Alrighty, there we go. There's our positive line, there's our negative. So get that in there. Okay, I guess okay. I guess we'll have to make it thicker. I thought it needed to be thinner, but apparently not. Alright, trying to get this, make sure I keep it on camera. Sometimes it's just hard to do. These pins look like they're a little tarnished, but it's alright. Alrighty. Negative to positive, positive to negative. There we go. There we go. That's more like it. Sometimes you just get a little crazy. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and solder this here. So we'll just put a little bit of solder on that. Alright. And I don't like that it's going to take since it's got tarnish on it, so we may have to pull that out and see if we can clean that a little better. I thought I had it cleaned pretty good, but apparently I did not. Usually take a little Scotch-Brite to the contacts. Since this is acid core, yeah, it should take pretty good, but that side here did not take for some reason. Yeah, it's got like a ring around it, so what we're going to do is we'll put a little bit of acid flux on there, just a little bit, just a little resin acid there, just to clean that up. So when the soldering iron hits it, it takes care of that here. Alright, let's get a little bit on here. I've had this stuff so long, it's just old. And we'll put a little bit around each thing there. Alright, let's see what happens now. It should make a lot of smoke now. And if it doesn't work, we'll take it off and I'll tin them. Looks like we're going to have to tin them. So let's get this in here. Let's take the solder off. We'll have to tin these wires. They're just so old. I've had this for so long. They're just so old. They're just not. They got tarnish on them and they're just not taking. You see how it's ringing up around it. I hope you can see it. We'll show you here in a minute. Let me see. Show you here in a minute. Alright. If you look at the rings around the solder joint right here, that means it's not holding on to anything. So we're going to take them off and I'm going to clean, and I'm going to tin these things here. There we go. There's just see they're just not taking it. It's just dirty from time. We've had them. I mean, these are old. I've had this forever. So let's just get a little bit. Let's just get a little bit of cleaner on there. And if it still doesn't work, we'll take a. And so what we'll do is we'll come across here and we'll clean. This kind of helps clean it. Keeps some. Takes the flux. Will clean the wire. It's old stock I've had floating around for a while. Luckily, it's the only one I had of this. So, and it wouldn't hurt sometimes to clean your tip there. But now what I'll do is I'll take some Scotch-Brite here. Now that we've got it that side cleaned up, and I'll just take a little Scotch-Brite here and just come across it. Try to clean the wires up a bit. There we go. Alright. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. Ram that down in there a little too far. Right? So we'll do the same thing on this side here. So we'll take our soldering iron and basically just cleans the wire. Ouch. Let's get a little warm on you. And it's got a lot of crap on the wire. So now hopefully we've done that. It's a little bit warm. It's a little bit. Alright, so we'll take our thing here and see if we can clean that wire up. There we go. Yeah, it takes them. Alright, let's see if it will stick this time. Negative, positive, positive to negative. Alright, now let's see if it'll take solder. Like I said, these are old diodes had flown around here for a long time. There we go. There we go. Let me go ahead and get my side cuts out. My hand out. Put them away. Always try to put my tools away so I don't lose them. So we'll go ahead and cut the wire here. And we'll get those all out of here. Usually I save wires for jumpers for other things, but these are so tarnished we're just going to throw them away. So now if we look, there shouldn't be any rings in there whatsoever around your solder joints, so that's good. We are going to now, I bought brand new transistors, and in my thing we had to look, but after pulling the schematic up on this, you can use several types of transistors. The original ones were, let me see if I can get my original ones here, and I had them right here. I don't think, we're going to check the transistors. I don't think transistors are now bad. I think it was that diode that was giving us the fit. I think the diode is what was giving us a fit. I looked up all those transistors, but I have found a schematic for a newer style of this, and if you look over here, it tells you I can use a TIP31C or a TIP3055. So nice thing is there's still transistors, you can still get those. Mauser, I've got a local surplus store that had some other transistors, but if you look down here in the note, the OEM MJE31, which is the smaller one here, could be replaced by a TIP31, TIP31C, or a TIP, I found that out, TIP29 by actually doing some research. The thing is, they don't really tell you much about this transistor here, but it's a TIP3055 or this another one. The original was an MJE3055. I found a different style of an MJE3055. This is a T. But let's go ahead and see and check our transistors here. Let's see if the transistors are bad. I'm thinking now it was the diode causing the short. The diode was the problem the whole time, which was actually pointed out a friend of mine, which I never thought about. Because I figured those type of diodes, I really never had too much trouble, you know, them really burning out, but apparently they do. So let's see here. Now, if we look at our schematic, which sometimes you can find this online, so you can look. So it's telling me here that it's base emitter collector. So if you look at the device face forward, it's base emitter collector. So what we'll have to do here, I'll straighten my pins up here a little bit, and let's see what we got here. Alright, let's go to transistor. Where's it at? There it is. HFFE. Alright, so base emitter collector, or base collector emitter. So it's an NPN. So we're going to squeeze them just together just a little bit here, just to get them down into my little hole. Now, I'm not sure about that. That doesn't quite jive for some reason. Base collector emitter, that's bouncing all over the place, which I don't think I should be doing that. So what we'll do is, just for a test, we will run the replacement for that. Let's see here, and we may put the replacements in anyway just to make sure. So alright, so let's get them down in there. Maybe not. Oh, alright, they're not quite going to go down in there, are they? Well, we had them down in there. Base collector emitter. Oh. Yeah, okay, see, it's got a steady HFE of 93. Oh, let me get over, I wasn't even in the picture. Anyway, so these transistors have a steady of HFE of 91, which is still pretty decent. So let's put the older one, the used one, back in. Let's see if this one here, it's a base emitter collector. Let's see if it's got a steady. You notice HFE is bouncing around, so this transistor, I'm assuming, is bad. Yeah, it bounces around. It should not bounce around. So I would say that transistor is bad. So we're going to put the new one in. We're going to put the new one in. Now let's try the bigger transistor here. And of course, again, I don't know if, let's see here, it may not. Alright, we got to kind of fold the pins down enough to get them down into our little tester here. So that's what I'm doing here. Alright, let's see if this one here checks. I don't think that's correct, so let's try this other one here. The replacement for it. Yeah, see, that's got, so I say these transistors here must be bad, because if you actually look, this one, the replacement's got an HFE of 132, so that tells me that one's good. But if you put this old one in, let me clean up the traces just to make sure it's not, we ain't got tarnish on it, which I don't think we do. Alright, let's put those in, see what we got back in there. I'm going to put that back in there. Let's see, I don't know if when the diode went bad, if it took the transistor out. So let's flip it around then. Okay, nope, so that's not it. Let's go down here. Okay, so actually it does have a fairly steady one, so maybe that might still be good. Let's put our other one in. Oh, that's funny. One's a, it must be the, let's see here. Well, they're both PNP, or NPN, but this one here is not, this reads differently when you put it in a different thing. So, I'm going to say we're going to use the old one. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'd say that one. That driver is definitely bad, because it's not reading nothing no matter what we do here. It just reads as a short. Oh shit. Just, okay. Yeah, no matter how this checks, this transistor checks bad. So we're going to keep this one, and we're going to replace just the driver. So let's pull this out, and let's go ahead and let's go ahead and straighten our pins out, and let's put this back in where it belongs, because this seems to be working all right. I hope, anyway. And if it doesn't, and it burns the diode out, it just burns the diode out. I always figure we can always replace it, and I don't like the way they did this. They just kind of pushed everything to the side there instead of actually, I would have formed it, which matter of fact I think we will form it. So alright, well we'll do this. Why they didn't take time, well, they just put them in quick, but just why take a little time just to form the pins so they go into the holes better, so you know, so they don't look so. There we go. And then we'll pull it down and we'll push it over so that the holes line up. See, so that's what you want to do. You want to make sure the holes line up, so when you put your screw and stuff back in, they'll line up just fine. So then what we'll do here is I always kind of bend them over a little bit, different areas, so that so it doesn't fall out. Okay, and our hole's still lined up, so let's go ahead and we'll run some solder in there. And what we can do is, if it does find out, if it burns something up, then we know not to do that again, so not a big deal. And these are taking solder pretty good, so we'll resolder it. Okay. Alright, and then this here, we'll just bend it back down where it belongs. Okay, we need to, let's see, I'm not lined up now. Somehow we got mislined up, so let me move some stuff here. This is off camera, so we'll do other stuff here. So it's on camera here eventually. Okay. I just had to kind of do a little bit of moving here so I can get my screw lined back up where it belongs here. There we go. See, now our screw lines up again. I had to kind of pull a little bit of stuff just to kind of get that to go. So here's our new transistor, which will go in there. So again, now these here will straighten up, just being straight. And if you kind of look at the way the... Okay, I'm back. Had somewhat of an emergency phone call there. So I went ahead and bent my pins and lined up my holes. So we'll go ahead and resolder that. Doesn't mean I fixed this yet. All we found certain things that might have been wrong with it. And we soldered that. Just leave your soldering iron there just a little bit longer than it needs to be, so make sure the solder flows properly. Now what we'll do with this, instead of putting this back in, is we'll test it outside. We'll power it up outside and we'll test it outside. So right now what I want to do now, I'm not even going to heat sink it, I'm going to let it sit the way it is, but what I got to put the capacitor back in. We may replace these wires because they are pretty brittle. So where's my negative at here on this? Negative's on this side. Negative's on that side. Alright, so now put that back in. We'll solder our capacitor back on because it needs to be in there anyway. Okay, here's my negative right there, so we'll put the negative back in. Capacitor wasn't bad, which is fine. Usually these bigger capacitors, they don't really go bad. I mean, they can, but I have not really had too many of those. Alright. And what I'll do is I've got the solder in the hole, so I'll just heat the hole up. Okay, and we're just we'll resolder it, but I had to heat the hole up because apparently I just pulled this out without desoldering it. A lot of times I like to desolder it, but this time it didn't quite go. Alright, we'll get back in here, we'll give that a push. There we go. I don't know too much, but it's okay. It's funny, they made one lead real short, but the other lead real long. So that's funny. Well, I don't know unless it's funny, but it's kind of unique. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll refresh this solder here. So I'll come in here and I'll just run me some refresh solder. Alright, there we go. Just reflow that there a little bit. Let me clean my little Scotch-Brite to clean my tip off here. And then I usually shake it and then that gives me a little bit there. So anyway, alright, so we resoldered it. I don't like the way it flows. See that little dot there? It doesn't look good when you start seeing little dots like that. Okay, and we'll, alright. And we'll just make sure that's soldered good. Make sure, and we'll put a little bit of solder. Okay, so now our capacitor's back in. Now, what we are going to do next, we're going to cut that off. I don't know why they cut the other one short but left that one long. I didn't do that. That's glue. So what we're going to do at this point now, what I am going to do is I am going to put the power leads back on. And we've already got the output leads, so we don't have to do a whole lot of testing there, but I wanted to put the power leads back in. So the power leads, let's see here. Alright, let's see. One will say LED, so the LED's in between because they run off the output. So we'll go ahead and we'll solder this power lead on. And if it pops the breaker, then we know we've got a problem. So, alright, let's just spend some time cleaning this up here. And we'll get the old fashioned solder wick for this. Always keep a little solder wick around because sometimes for like little fast parts, no use powering my big soldering thing up. So we'll just put a little bit of soldering wick up here and we'll suck that up out of there. You got to move your solder wick around a little bit. You're always on the fresh. Okay. Got that one clean. Let's try this other one. Still got solder in the hole. There we go. Alright. Not quite, but close enough. I don't like that resistor. So let's put the negative on. And let's go ahead. Put the negative on. The solder's through the hole. I know I'm probably off camera, so let me slide this on up here. Off camera, okay. Now just so you know that we did not put this in, it goes underneath these, and we will do that here shortly, but not yet. Let me go ahead and get this soldered back up. There we go. There we go. I'll put an extension on this camera. It looks like I need to extend it just a little bit further because I don't think I've got it extended enough. So I may have to. So that's negative. As you can tell, it's negative. So let's go ahead and put our positive on here. And I am recording. Okay. Just want to make sure I was recording. And if it blows this time, then either we had a bad transistor on the other side, or vice versa. So, all right. So now, let's see. Power is off. This is to the LED. We're not worried about that. I'm just going to check to see if it blows the breaker. If it pops the breaker, then we know that we're not right. So, where is this one plugged in? It's plugged in here. So here we go. Ready? All right. Let's make sure that everything's reset. Everything's good. All right. Hopefully. Oops. Hold on for a minute. Okay. All right. Now let's make sure it's plugged in. Yes, it's plugged in next to it. Okay. So it didn't pop. So let's take our voltmeter here and let's see what we have power-wise. Let's see if we have anything. Let me get my stuff here. So we will slide the transformer over. We got the power going in. So far we haven't blown anything. It doesn't necessarily mean everything's working yet either. So let's go down here to voltage. I hate this because it's yellow and you can't really tell. Alright, so let's see what we got. So here's negative. So far we're not blowing anything. Everything looks good. 13.84 volts. That's pretty good. So it looks like the diode, of course, was bad. We checked it. And we knew that now this is an MJE31, which is a TIP31 as well. We know that this was bad. But it looks like we have voltage. If you look at our voltage, we're at 13.8 volts. Now I can actually do a test, and I've always done this kind of anyway, and we'll put a light bulb test on that because that'll give it just a little bit of a load. So what I'll do is let me pull out my little light bulbs here, and let's just use this. Here we go. These are my favorite bulbs to use for this. So just a standard car light bulb. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to touch the lead. So we know that this is negative. We'll take this off, negative. And let's see here. And positive. And there we go. Whoop. There you go. So, and then we'll leave it on there for a little bit of a load. So far, I think we're alright. The light bulb's staying lit, so it's always nice to have those type of light bulbs laying around. That's how I kind of give it just a little bit of a load. You know, this is kind of a delicate thing, but other than that, looks like it's doing pretty good. It's just because it lost connection. Alright, so we'll turn the power off, and fortunately that bulb's going to be warm, so we'll use my thing here. We'll pull that off. That bulb's old, as you can tell. It's really, really old. Alright, so right now as it looks, we've got that. So now we're going to put our heat sinks and stuff together. So we're going to pull these up. The driver, see, that's really warm. That's good. The driver's not too bad. Alright, and what I want to do now, everything's off. Let's go ahead and shut the power off. And we got to find which one. This had the transistor, so I'm assuming this is what had the transistor. Is we put that, and then we push this down, and what we'll do is here, if it gives us too much of a fit, well, I know exactly what we'll do now. Still looks like I need to do that, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to heat these up just enough to get these to this connector to bend here. So here we go. That's because that plate doesn't allow it to bend. There we go. See how that is kind of moved, and that's what we'll do with it, and we'll reflow it once we get it seated down. There we go. There we go. So now it looks like we need to move our transistor over, and it's still not quite where it needs to be. So we may pull that transistor out. Yeah, see, we're connected now. She's really unconnected. So we're going to go ahead and pull our pins out so we can actually work on the board, because sometimes they don't give you enough wire to do that. Alright, there we go. Now, our board, I need to reset my transistors. I'm not worried about that one, and I had plenty of lead on, so that didn't bother me. This one here is kind of not getting enough lead, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to power my desolder. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just do it the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way, the problem is you need a holder, and I have one, I just don't have it out, because usually when I do the soldering sucker, I don't need to use the holder. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. I'll tell you what, let's just use the... Sometimes you got to have something to push against. So let's see. There we go. Make sure you're seeing something. Where we at? I'm still off the frame. All right. I am going to have to do something with this camera, so everything, so I get a little bit more length. I put it so I had more length, but apparently it didn't work. So, all right. Let me desolder this here. Okay. Now, nice thing about this board here, it seems to be handling soldering and desoldering. Some of these boards are just so fragile that you can't, you know, I mean, you can't, it just doesn't like to be soldered and unsoldered. So, let's go ahead and get these so they're off. There we go. Make sure we move it there. That should be good. See now, actually, I spoke too soon. See how that trace broke? So, it's no big deal. We will just move it up a little bit, but that's what I was trying to say, that we got lucky. Famous last words, right? So let's go ahead and straighten our pins back up here. Let's bring this back over where it belongs, and we'll clean this solder off here. And now we're going to bend the pins where we want them this time. This will get us back into where I need to be. So, all right, we're going to put that back down in there. Alrighty, and then actually it needs to go in a little bit more, but so now I'm going to put my metal in. We already know that one's lined up good, and we're going to line this up for the metal. And a lot of people say, well, just put the metal in and put your part in. Well, you could do that too. Yeah, alright, I guess they ain't going to like me straightening that up, so we'll go ahead and bend that back where it belongs. There we go. Alrighty, and we'll go ahead and line up our thing to that hole, and we'll make sure that that's lined up. That's always the best way, is put the heat sink in, and it's still not there. Make sure we're lined up on the hole. Looks good there. Alrighty. There we go. There we go. See, now everything's lined up fairly close. And so now what I'm going to do here, alright, it wants to be a kind of a pain. There we go. Alright, now let's go ahead. Alright, let me just solder the center joints. Let me solder the joint. Problem is everything's bouncing around. That's the bad thing about electronic components. There we go. They bounce, so we'll go ahead and put that back in. That at least gives me something there to line back up. There we go. There we go. There we go. That gives me a good hole. Alrighty. And let's go ahead and just do a little solder joint here. Let's go ahead and solder this one here. Ah, it was too hot. Ah, Billy. Let's make sure that we got the right height to make sure I don't have to push it. Looks like we'll have to push that down just a little bit, which is fine. We can do that. Let's go ahead and push that one down, that one down. So it's up against the metal, which it still isn't up against the metal. I'll tell you what. These pins here are just... Alrighty, there we go. That's better. Now everything's up there. Even if I put the heatsink stuff on there, it's still good. There we go. There we go. Alrighty. Now, this here got damaged, so what we're going to do here is you just take you a little screwdriver here, and I know a lot of people have different ways of doing it. Some people say run a trace to some place, but what I do is I just scrape off a little bit more of this protectant they have over top of it. They got some type of protectant. And then we're going to take the pin, and this is how I do it. People can argue the fact, I don't care, so I've always done it. And we're going to bend the pin over instead of running a wire, because really we didn't damage anything on that side. So let's see here. Alright. Now again, we'll make sure this is going to fit underneath there. And we'll make sure everything's going to sit flat. Well, see, that's still not sitting flat. So, alright, so we're going to, I got to, still not sitting flat. Because you got to make sure these are sitting flat, because these are what's going to